Hello and welcome to Digital Nation, your weekly look at what's happening around the UK in the company of the local TV channels. In this week's show, we take a very cool plunge in Cardiff. We join a controversial celebrity helping an innovative new cause in Birmingham. And a march in Belfast supporting a feminist campaign. And you can comment on the show by using hashtag Digital Nation. Our first visit is to Bristol. Let's hope you're in the mood for dancing though, because when the reporters from Made in Bristol visited a Cubatone class, it turned into more than just learning the moves.
Well, Chelsea, here we are, we're at the Malcolm X Centre. This is where Cubatone happens. So, last year, when I first met Aline, it was on live TV and we Cubatoned in front of thousands of people. All the celebrities got up off their table to get involved, so I wanted you to experience it. So, Aline, just for Chelsea's benefit, just let her know what Cubatone is.
Well, it's a mix of dancing and fitness, and good music as well. So the fun, are you working hard?
Hopefully I can try my best to remember my Cubatone skills, but I reckon we should get warmed up.
Let's see how it goes. Let's do it. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yes.
How's it going? No, fine. I'm as fit as I thought I was. I'm not sweating at all. This is. I've just spilled my water.
Am I sweating? No, this isn't sweat. It's just the light. It's just the light shining off me if there's a particularly shiny person.
Lung problems can have a debilitating effect on the sufferer's lifestyle. In Southampton, a recent breakthrough in the study of nasal cells may be the answer to not only their problems, but a host of other diseases too.
Scientists are getting a closer look at our lung functions when they use the nose in a dish. The model allows them to culture and regrow nose cells in healthy conditions and test drugs.
The nose cells actually mimic the lung cells, so people with lung conditions and people who have sort of deep-seated lung infections, by sampling the nose cells, it actually mimics the lung cells, so it's an easier site to sample and it's easy access, less invasive for the patient. So we take small cells from the nose using a little brush and we can culture them on a plastic dish, which allows us to get them to regrow in healthy conditions, and it allows us to investigate whether the cells are working properly, whether the hair-like structures on the surface called cilia are working properly, and also it allows us to test whether if we want to apply drugs onto the cell surface, whether the drugs are not affecting the cells in a detrimental way, harming the cells, whether the cells can respond to the drugs. We can also look at infection and what happens to these cells. So it's basically a model of the nasal cells that encounter the environment.
The model doesn't only benefit further research on diseases, it also prevents animal testing. In the future it'll be applied to other conditions like asthma, and it might also help to develop new drugs to protect against infections.
We're actually looking at the moment to see if we can, what affects nasal spray treatments, and also whether we can invent new treatments to help protect against bacterial infections, such as we have a study at the moment looking at the effects of sugar analogues to see if they can help protect ciliary function during a bacterial infection.
To Edinburgh now, where a recent addition to the Scottish National Gallery has caused great excitement. What is it that's so special about a painting of a tiny bird? STV Edinburgh went along to find out more.
It's really exciting. We have the goldfinch here. It just arrived at the Scottish National Gallery in Edinburgh. It's this famous picture, a tiny portrait, you could almost say, of a living goldfinch perched in front of his feeding box. And we are absolutely delighted and fortunate to have it here in Scotland for the very first time.
See that thing around its one little claw? You see the There's a chain. So it's kind of a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think it looks like it might just fly away?
You would want to.
Yeah, right? For me, it's always been something wonderful, a painting so small that packs such a punch. It's so lively that every time I walk by it in the gallery, it jumps out at me. That little bird chained to its perch seems as if it's about to fly off the wall. Carl Fabricius was one of Rembrandt's pupils, actually, in Amsterdam. He moved back to his home city of Delft, where he worked for a while, but died tragically, at a tragically young age. The date of the picture here, the goldfinch, is 1654. It's fairly prominently inscribed. And that is, in fact, the date that there was a massive gunpowder explosion in the city of Delft, and Fabricius and most of his work went up in flames. Had a very good relationship with the Scottish National Gallery, not least obviously because I worked here myself. But we always look at the collection here when we're doing an exhibition, and if there are works in this gallery that we might think would be interesting, then we don't hesitate to ask for a loan. And it goes the other way around too. In fact, we are very soon. One of our great Rembrandts is coming here.
In Cardiff now, the life of a TV reporter is never dull. And so diving into freezing cold, fast-flowing water in a gorge is just another part of the day job, isn't it? Just make sure that camera's in a waterproof cover.
This is Pont na Fechan, deep in the heart of South Wales. More commonly known as waterfall country. Amongst the epic landscapes and gorgeous scenery, there's an appetite for adventure.
It's 1 degree and I'm here at the Brecon Beacons, gorge scrambling. I don't know why, but we're going to go for it anyway. How cold is it? Whoa!
Gorge walking involves following the course of a river either upstream or downstream on foot. As you can see, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Back in the late 70s, at the height of the hunt for the serial killer Peter Sutcliffe, the so-called Yorkshire Ripper, for their own safety, women were urged to stay indoors and be aware at all times if they went out. It was a frightening time that gripped the nation, and in Belfast, campaigners who object to being told to change their behaviour hold an annual event.
Tonight is our third annual Reclaim the Night March. Reclaim the Night actually goes back to the 1970s, at least under that name it does. From the late 1970s and early 1980s, during the time the Yorkshire Ripper was active in Leeds and Bradford area of England, and the police had advised that women observe a curfew. And the women of the cities organised Reclaim the Night to say that we're not going to tolerate this idea that we are going to be, that the victims are to blame somehow for not keeping themselves safe. That the responsibility lies with those who would be violent against us rather than the other way around. So in the spirit of that, it has carried on, it's been a tradition really internationally, but particularly in Britain and Ireland, to have Reclaim the Night marches to speak out against sort of that narrative that women should dress more conservatively and walk with their friends and text their friends and carry their keys and all of the other things that we absorb about how we're supposed to keep ourselves safe on nights out. And particularly at this time of year where people are often going out a lot and sometimes coming home on their own from the office party or what have you, we should be as safe as if it's 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon in the main shopping street.
It is symbolic. Dark streets aren't always a safe space, particularly if you are a woman or a member of the LGBT community or a member of an ethnic minority. So this is us coming out to say we should be able to be here. Public spaces are for everybody, and this is us coming out and reclaiming these spaces.
Whatever we were, wherever we go, yes means yes and no means no.
And that's the end of the first part of the show, and time for this week's quiz. So, how many lions are there on the badge of the England football team shirt? Is it A, 2, B, 3, or C, 5? We'll give you the score after the break. Welcome back to Digital Nation. Before the break, we asked you, how many lions are there on the badge of the England football team shirt? And the answer is B, 3 lions. Written by the comedians David Baddiel and Frank Skinner, with the Lightning Seeds' Ian Broady as the official Euro 96 song, England went out on penalties. To Oxford now, and with the latest road accident statistics showing a large number of young drivers being involved, the local council and emergency services have taken steps to try and educate them. That's Oxfordshire. We're at the event.
In 2015, a third of all road casualties on Oxfordshire's roads involved a young driver aged 17 to 24. Figures showed that more than 1 in 4 deaths on the road involved this age group, with young drivers being the highest casualty groups from road traffic collisions. That is why Oxfordshire County Council's Road Safety Education team and firefighters are supporting Safe Drive, Stay Alive. The production includes a filmed scenario which shows a group of young people on a night out, whose cars are involved in a serious crash. As the on-screen drama unfolds, members of the emergency services that are featured in the film step out onto the stage.
So I made my way into the car. I had to fight my way through the broken metalwork, broken glass, all the tree branches and debris, CDs, bits and pieces that are all in the interior of the car.
The performance has also left a lasting impression on students Holly and George.
I didn't really think about how much other people are involved. You kind of just automatically think about the family and the immediate people. And like my uncle's a firefighter, and I have never even thought about how it affects him.
I personally can't wait to drive. Like, I want the freedom, and I really, really want to drive, but I haven't really thought about this side of it. So obviously I still want to drive, but like I'm thinking more about how I need to be a lot more careful than I thought I was going to be, because I was just expecting to just start driving and that'd be it. But there's so much more to it.
Sliding in next, it's time for Creative Kingdom.
So, who invented the slide? Well, it wasn't the Egyptians, and it wasn't Pythagoras either. If you want to know who was the real king of the playground, it was an inventor from Kettering called Charles Wicksteed. He'd already made a name for himself when he invented a machine that could butter 400 slices of bread per hour. But his finest achievement came in 1922, when he built a slide which stood 13 feet tall at the highest point and consisted of 2 rickety ladders and 3 polished wooden planks. Before too long, Charles turned out playground equipment by the score, which popped up all over the world. Proof once again that when it comes to creativity, innovation, and putting the country on the slide, in Kettering Mint.
This world is full of some amazing people, and foster parents are just some of them. For someone who is prepared to take care of a child who needs their protection with no questions asked, and then see them move on as they grow up, is a very thoughtful journey. And there are still so many foster parents needed, as STV Glasgow discovered.
Well, myself and my husband unfortunately couldn't have a family. We had tried IVF and that didn't work for us. And I'd always wanted to have a family, I always wanted to be around kids, and we decided on fostering so that we could help more children.
What's it like whenever, you know, your child moves on, essentially?
It's hard seeing them going back, but it was also rewarding knowing that they were going back to their mum and dad, because sadly in fostering that's not normal. It depends on the child. Some of them just don't want to keep in contact. I mean, I had two that decided when they became of age they wanted to go back to mum and dad, and that was quite hard.
I've heard people say that foster care isn't for them because they're concerned that they might have a child, a young person, that has issues or something else to deal with. What would you say to someone who has that concern?
Yeah, I would say that I wouldn't pretend that all the children who come into the care system don't have issues, because many of them have faced real problems in their lives. Many of our foster carers are maybe in their mid to late 40s, early 50s, and can offer a really good, stable environment, particularly for older kids.
So you have about 800 families short in the next 12 months, so even if one person picks up the phone, it's going to make a huge difference.
It will make a huge difference, because it could be the difference from a child coming into a foster family or going into a residential unit or staying at home when they really shouldn't be at home.
So what would you say to anyone that's watching this and is in any way curious or has any reservations about foster care?
Pick up the phone, because it is the most rewarding job in the world. It can be hard, but it is one of the best things we've ever done.
In Birmingham, a new local charity decided that getting a well-known celebrity as its patron would give it a great boost. However, when the celebrity in question is as controversial as the cause itself, everybody has to work that little bit harder.
Bow ties, high heels and non-alcoholic mocktails. There aren't too many events of such a nature, but Changes UK's fundraiser was one of them.
Initially we did do detox and rehab, but then it was difficult to find opportunities for people to move into employment. Now we could go to big corporations and say, can you give these people a job? But it's not aligned with their purpose, and it wasn't really sustainable. So you know, we really have created changes to create something that I would have wanted, really, and it's kind of just, you know, evolved from there, really.
A familiar face was at the event in Birmingham over the weekend. Russell Brand was named the charity's patron for 2017. As a man who's battled with his own drug addictions, what's encouraged him to jump on board?
For me, anyone that's doing something innovative in the field of addiction, I've got respect for them, because of obviously myself, I am a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, so people that are doing things that are innovative and novel in this area, it's interesting to me.
What I admire about Russell is that he's happy to put his head or his neck on the line and let people know that he's in recovery, and I think it's crucial, really. There's too much stigma and shame around addiction. People don't understand addiction.
This is going to be the start of many, many more enterprises like this. You can see how the world is changing. You can see how people aren't satisfied with the old way. So new ways of funding, new ways of empowering people to overcome the disease of addiction. This is the future for us. Change is at the very forefront of that future, here in Birmingham. Does that even make sense to you, Aaron?
Seems pretty straightforward to me, and Changes UK will hope that it will be straightforward for those coming out of addictions to now find work. And if the numbers of people who benefit continues to grow, then it will certainly be a glass half full.
To Nottingham now, and as we get older, we regularly complain about our wrinkles and how to get rid of them. But when a dog has the same problem, he can't really do much, especially if he's been abandoned by his owner. However, help is at hand in the shape of a dog rescue centre whose patients have given him the possibility of a new life and a new owner.
These days, Hector the Shar-Pei gets just as excited about a walk as any of his kind. Sadly, though, it wasn't always the case. When he arrived at the halfway home dog rescue, he was just a third of the weight he is now.
Hector
Hector was found as a stray after being dumped by an owner, and he was taken to a local pound which was up in the Bradford area, and then after 7 days, when an owner didn't turn up to collect him, he basically went on a ticking time bomb of being put to sleep, and Hector would have been put to sleep because of the condition of him. Nobody would have wanted to buy him out of the pound.
But that's where you came in, of course.
That's where we came in. But the biggest problem he's got is his wrinkles, because it brings his skin down over his eyes, and it also turns his eyelids in, which is making the eyelashes rub on the eye. And so he does need a major operation, which isn't cheap.
Hector's wrinkles could damage his eyesight permanently unless he gets the surgery that can cost as much as £3,000. With the change that staff have already seen in him, though, there's a real determination to get this popular pooch the facelift he needs.
Wouldn't wag his tail, he wouldn't come to you, he'd just sit there and not do anything really. But now he just wants to see people and off he goes for his walks, and he loves his walks. I mean, we love all the dogs, but with Hector there's just something special about him.
And while part of Hector's plight comes naturally, part of the problem is man-made.
It's a sad fact that us as human beings want dogs to look a certain type. People breed from a really wrinkly male and a really wrinkly female in the hope that they'll get the puppies will be more wrinkly. And you know, it's so sad. It happens with lots of different breeds.
In Grimsby, a team of local health experts have created a project to help patients suffering from dementia. Using their long-term memory, which is usually unaffected by the disease, sporting archives from the region's amateur football leagues have been used to help form friendships.
Residents of Waltham have spent their afternoon taking sport reminiscence to the next level. Waltham Sporting Memories Group have taken part in an audio documentary that captures the history of amateur football leagues in the Grimsby and Cleethorpes area.
The Sporting Memories is a brainchild of our directors Chris and Tony, both who've got a clinical background of working with people with dementia, and they, after years and years of working with people with dementia or mental health conditions, they decided and found that sport was a way to connect with particularly older men, to connect their memories and to stimulate conversations as a way to reconnect people to their local communities and to make new friends and support networks around them.
The group of people that we have coming to Sporting Memories have been involved in amateur league football since its earliest days. Some of our more older attendees go way back with the whole history of it, and it was really important to capture their memories. So what we've got now is an audio documentary that we can do all sorts of things with in terms of making this available.
This documentary not only celebrates amateur football, but gives Waltham's elderly residents the chance to reconnect with the past.
And that's all from this week's journey around the UK's local TV channels. If you'd like to see more, then go to bbc.co.uk/digitalnation. Or maybe try the website of your own local TV channel. So until next time, goodbye.